Yeah, Larry, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, Kamala doubled down on the far left of her own party. If you think about the Hamas caucus, they really didn't want her to pick Josh Shapiro. They wanted her to pick Tim Walz. If you think about the people who want to ban fracking, they wanted Tim Walz. The people who want to defund the police, they wanted Tim Walz. The people who want to open the border, they wanted Tim Walz.
All right. There you have it. Just a few minutes ago, we spoke to Senator Vance. Joining us now on set, Mark Simone, WR Hall of Fame radio host, and Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, author of Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. One reason they're not is a socialist from Vermont picked the ticket. It was a Bernie Sanders ticket. He was very much for Kamala Harris, and he apparently, according to reports, did not want Josh Shapiro, a moderate of Pennsylvania, did not want Mark Kelly, who was sort of a crypto moderate of Arizona. He wanted this Tim Walz, what's his name, Governor Walz, who has a very left-wing spend and tax, et cetera, record. And you heard the Hamas wing of the party. Okay, that may be an exaggeration, but banned fracking, got the highest corporate tax rate. What do you think, Joe? Surprised at this...
Baseball analogy, it's the fifth inning. Bernie Sanders, even at his age, 2 for 2.
I know.
Look, that sound you hear, if you listen real close, are the champagne corks flying across Mar-a-Lago right now for all the reasons that you just listed. They got the exact opponent that they wanted because they wanted no part of Josh Shapiro. 61% approval rating in Pennsylvania, which is basically a 50-50 state. And with Tim Walz, those images, that video from the Summer of Love 2020, those not-so-peaceful protests, where you had whole blocks burned to the ground, $500 million in damage, 1,500 buildings either destroyed or damaged. The police station looked like the Nakatomi Plaza at the end of Die Hard. They burned that to the ground as well. And then go back and listen to an interview that Kamala Harris did with Stephen Colbert on CBS, where she said, these aren't going to stop. She cheered this on while Tim Walz, I'll give you a Senate report out of Minnesota, the Minnesota Senate report, October 2020, quote, Governor Walz had the ability and duty to use force and law enforcement to stop criminal violence, but he did not, unquote. That's from his own state Senate. Yeah. He's got to run against this record now? No thanks.
So with this, Mark Simone, I don't understand this. What he said last week, the white dude's Zoom call, okay, it's utter nonsense, but one person's socialism and another person's neighborliness. What does that mean? I have neighbors, they're not socialists. What is he talking about? Or is he just sort of freely saying, I am a socialist, and there's nothing wrong with it?
Yes, he's saying socialism is being neighborly. This guy is Saul Alinsky meets Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump just tweeted 2 words, thank you. Just put that up with an exclamation point. I don't like conspiracy theories. I'm starting to think there's a saboteur running this. They put Joe Biden in a debate where he's going to get wiped out. They had her pick the worst possible choice. People are going to start to realize they're going to get hurt here badly. It's going to cost you a lot of money if these two get elected. Your bank book, your pocket has already been killed by this administration. This will be painful. It will cost Americans a lot of money if they get elected.
Now, I know it's a little more boring than burning down Minneapolis and contributing to Black Lives Matter, which Kamala did in one way or form or the other.
She ran a bail fund.
Bail fund for them.
Those who got out from it actually hurt people.
But it also turns out, I mean, after all, we're a business economics show. This guy, Walz, has a very liberal left. He's a spender. He's a taxer. The state of Minnesota has the highest corporate tax rate in the United States. Wow. Corporate tax is arguably the most important tax there is, because if you help business, that's how wage workers get paid. And as my friend Jim Cramer said, you know, if you're looking for higher wages, vote for Trump. And I think Cramer's got that exactly right. I mean, the guy is very far left. That's what there's no question about that. How does that possibly, in other words, I'm asking, what's the calculus politically? Why would she, except for Bernie Sanders and the pressure from the left, why would she have gone with the most left-wing guy?
Usually the goal is to go to the center during the election, then govern back to the left if you're a Democrat. And that's all she had to do here by choosing Shapiro. And again, choosing those on presidential slates out of the state of Minnesota hasn't been a good idea in the past, right? Hubert Humphrey, 1968, won 13 states. Walter Mondale won exactly 1 state against your old boss, Ronald Reagan. And then you think about, does winner really really work with Minnesota in general, when you consider that their football team and the Vikings has never won a Super Bowl, when you consider that 2 of their hockey teams have never won a Stanley Cup, and the Twins haven't won a World Series in 33 years, I'm just saying, you don't think winner when you think Minnesota, which is a lovely state.
It's a lovely state, and it's a fine city, even though it's overtaxed to death. Mark Simone, I asked J.D. Vance at the end, he's got a good platform, lower taxes, lower regulations, drill, baby, drill, helping business. One side likes businesses, which hire workers and give them paychecks. The other side of the Democrats don't like business and wants to tax and regulate them to death and reduce their paychecks. Question to you, is Mr. Trump off message in the last week or so? I'm including Georgia in this. A lot of people they don't understand why I went and attacked the governor of Georgia. Once again, it seemed very personal. Is there a risk that all the good vibes coming out of the fabulous Milwaukee convention, which probably knocked Joe Biden out and caused a panic among Democrats, has that been lost in your judgment, honest judgment?
The truth is, anytime he does a rally, an hour and a half, anytime even the Black Journalist Convention, an hour, it's 57 minutes of policy, substance, issues. For 3 minutes in there, he does his Imus routine where he wisecracks, insults. 3 minutes out of the hour. They just never cover the other part.
So the Georgia thing wasn't important?
99.9% of that was substance and issues.
Right.
He's always going to make those wisecracks.
Chicago, we talked about this, I think. The black journalist in Chicago was, I thought, brilliant messaging by him. So when was that? That was only a week ago. Yeah. So that was very brilliant message. Georgia raised some alarms. Now, I know there are some editorial pages, even on the conservative side, that want to nick him to death, okay? But you're saying it doesn't matter.
In the end, it won't matter. This is 2016 all over again. He did that back then, the John McCain comment, all those jokes, those wisecracks. It didn't hurt him in the end. In the end, it came down to the border, crime, the economy. People will vote for their own interests, and they're not going to decide based on that.
They're not going to vote for Veep. The Veep thing here just reinforces how far left the Democrats are. I think that's one point. But I think also, Joe, if the economy and the threat of recession comes back as a central casting issue, which it may, including a stock market crashing, you got to go with the team that you think is going to help your finances and your economy and your job and your paycheck. I just can't imagine how Kamala and Walz can be that team.
Remember 2008, early September, John McCain had a slight lead over Barack Obama, and then the crash happened, and then how could you possibly vote for the Republican ticket, right? I think immigration's so huge here, and that's the point that Trump needs to hammer home. Tim Walz was being interviewed, CNN, Anderson Cooper, 2019 during the Trump administration, and he actually said this. He says, I want to invest in a ladder company so I could help migrants get over Trump's border wall and enter the country illegally. I'm paraphrasing, but that's exactly what he was implying. And those are comments that, again, the Trump campaign should just be playing on a loop in ads all across the country, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, especially, and Arizona.
How come Sherrod Brown and John Tester, Democrats up for re-election in Ohio and Montana, they're not even going to the Democratic National Committee convention in Chicago, Mark? Why is that? They're going to miss a tremendous party, aren't they? Or maybe not.
I don't think they want to get caught in the riots and the protests outside. I think that's the problem.
I mean, you think people are going to desert the party? Are they going to desert the ticket?
Yeah. Now, remember, she hasn't spoken yet in interviews. People haven't heard her talk on issues. She's going to have a problem. She hasn't been presidential. What happened with the economy the other day? Why didn't she address the nation, look presidential?
That's right.
Say something.
All right, one last one. We're over time. Producers are screaming at me. But there's a little clever little thing about whether Kamala is really a woke-oriented politician. Take a listen to this, please.
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Joe, are you the wokest or the woker?
I'm the wokey, maybe. Woker. I don't even know what you just said. But it's the laughter. When no one else is laughing, that is quite disconcerting. We'll put it that way.
Right here. We are in early August. Mark Simone, who's going to be the next president?
Trump easily. The worst thing that happened to Kamala was peaking at the end of July. You want to do that at the end of October.
Trump going to carry New Jersey?
And New York.
Is he going to carry New York, too?
Carry both.
Seriously?
Carry both. Democrats never...
I'm just trying to focus on you. Joe's got some interesting facial expressions.
California Democrats never do well outside of California. They've only run in that one-party state.
You think Kamala and Walz will carry Minnesota?
Yeah, they'll carry Minnesota.
Well, I just wanted to check that.
And it won't matter.
Mark, Simone, Joe, Concha, thank you, gentlemen.